Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Roundtable. I'm Hunter Lee, and joining me here in San Francisco, as always, is Spelzy.
Hello.
And back at Santa Monica after visiting all of us up here in the Bay Area is Travis Gafford. How are you, Travis?
I am very good. It is good to be back in my office in Santa Monica.
Your office, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So you were up here in the Bay Area because we were all at IEM San Jose over the weekend. My first ever in-person esports tournament. Spelzy, what were your thoughts on the tournament?
I thought it was fun. It was much shorter. I mean, like, it's not like we didn't know that going in, but it was only like 12 matches total. That's like actually not that much. I guess 6 each day, but it was a very small scale tournament, even though it was a really big venue and the venue wasn't that full. But overall, the matches were really fun. I liked them a lot. Cloud9 won, who I was hoping to win, and so I was happy with that. And I thought it was a very fun event.
Okay, Travis, I agree that turnout looked a little good. I'm not sure how it looked on stream because we were all there in person, but what were your takeaways on the tournament?
Well, first off, I don't know what crazy stuff is happening in the office up there, but it sounds crazy. I wish I was there.
There's a
What
party.
you want to say about the IEM San Jose is that I really liked it. I thought that it was a fun tournament, very relaxing, I guess is one way to put it, because, yeah, there was not as... I mean, their press release that they just sent out today said that it was their biggest U.S. event ever. However, you definitely don't feel that way whenever you're there because they couldn't fill the arena, which is too bad.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like a highlight of the event was the ARAM that everyone enjoyed. That was pretty
I think
action-packed.
I was pleasantly surprised by the celebrity ARAM.
Yeah.
The unnecessarily and ridiculous cheesy sort of lead up to it with the fake Twitter battle and Intel and everything.
It was genius.
It was genius, maybe. But the actual event itself, I thought that those guys said there was a lot of camaraderie. It was interesting to see these kind of old guard stars come back and play again. I thought the Hexacast was really fun. And as a person who doesn't play or watch ARAM very much, I thought the format was really nice. It's just a way to get these personalities in front of you.
By far, the biggest thing I think that everyone will remember from that event is TSM losing to Unicorns of Love, though. I had talked to one of the players beforehand, one of the players from the other teams that was competing, and they said that they'd been scrimming, a bunch of people had been scrimming, and the general consensus going into it was that TSM was probably the favorite team to win the whole thing. And obviously that did not occur. And I don't really know what happened. It just seemed like this weird fluke. I guess maybe TSM just wasn't prepared to deal with like the really off-the-wall picks or something, but
I don't even know if TSM knew what happened.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it was really the picks. Like, I mean, sure, like the TF level 2 gank might have contributed to the mid lane snowball, but like mostly it was like Power of Evil crushing Bjergsen.
Yeah.
Like in both games, he got first blood on Bjergsen, and in the first game he went like what 4-0 against Bjergsen's 0-4-0. Like,
this is something we haven't seen happen to TSM that
ever
much.
Almost.
So like Bjergsen got dumpstered hard.
Unless they're playing Koreans.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but it's certainly
think,
even at Worlds, Bjergsen wasn't getting dumpstered in lane.
Bjergsen was the one who was like at Worlds, like Bjergsen was like winning mid lane while everybody else around mid lane was losing.
Yeah, we saw Dyrus really, Samsung Blue focus on taking Dyrus out of the game and that being the winning strategy, not like cheese gank Bjergsen and then just have him lose 1v1 from there. That was a big surprise to me.
Yeah, Bjergsen had like a surprisingly bad showing, I guess, and then even in the second game after maybe tilted a little bit, I don't know. But that was like really surprising. Unicorns of Love looked really good in that series. But then going into the C9 series, Hai actually like handled him pretty well, which is surprising because Hai has historically been much worse in lane than Bjergsen.
This was definitely role reversal, Travis, where we've normally seen Bjergsen be really strong and Hai be the potentially inconsistent mid laner and sort of cost his team games. In this case, Bjergsen not playing well, and Hai did really well against Froggen, and then really well against Power of Evil, who'd looked strong all tournament. Probably a good sign for C9, right?
Yeah, I think going into this, like I was very surprised to hear TSM was the most likely winner from people or the favorite. I felt as though either Alliance or Cloud9 were my favorites. I think I had Alliance to win it, and Cloud9, they had like a very interesting series against Cloud9. Unfortunately, I didn't get to catch all of it, but I don't know. I think Cloud9 is looking like they might be back on top going into next split. There's so much time though, so maybe I should be making that prediction so soon. But I think that they look pretty good.
Yeah. Do you credit that roster stability as one of the things there, where TSM and Alliance and even Unicorns of Love having changes and Cloud9 looking better than all three? Or is there something maybe we should be concerned about in TSM's new lineup or Alliance's new lineup that leaves them maybe not as strong as they might look on paper?
My guess is the roster instability. I think maybe Alliance and TSM are going through some growing pains. And so, I don't know. I wish I looked closer at the Alliance C9 series to see really what happened there. But in the Cloud9 versus Unicorn Love series, Cloud9 just kind of like out-experienced Unicorns of Love, I think. Like, Unicorns of Love made like some good plays, but it was mostly like dominated by the like long game of C9.
Yeah. Okay, so as we look ahead, that's our first tournament on patch 420. I don't know, I don't think 4.21, which came out today, will be out for the next one. So as you look ahead to IEM Cologne, some initial takeaways on the meta. Surprising you, there's certainly jungle was probably the most experimental role there, but what's your sort of takeaways? New dragon, turret stuff, jungle items, everything. What jumped out at you?
I mean, it wasn't that surprising, but I think other than Kikis or whatever, other than his unique picks, the jungle looked kind of boring. Like, everybody went purple thing, everyone went rangers, and then everyone still stuck to like the Lee Sin, Elise kind of.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that interesting, with the exception of him. He brought a bunch of like unique picks, and it was really interesting when he played.
Travis, for you, meta seem really different than Worlds?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say is that it was kind of fun for me to see all this and experience this, because I think a lot of these picks and stuff like that were stuff that was happening while Worlds was going on, but because like Worlds was this hyperbolic time, no, I'm misusing that. It's like this cryogenic freeze where you're stuck in time, which isn't even what a cryogenic freeze is. It was like a time lock. I think that's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Worlds is like a time lock, right, where, you know, like you did see a little bit of development of stuff over time, but it was just nice for me to be at an event where there was other stuff happening, and I think that's what we saw. And by the way, this is random and maybe not as meta related, but I did want to say that this was the first time I'd been at an event where I could see the new map as a spectator at the event, and I kept saying this whole weekend long. I was like, yeah, we get it. But I thought that was such a very good experience for a spectator. I think it's just a lot, like, for some reason, even at a live event, or even more so at a live event, it's just a lot easier to follow and enjoy the game.
Yeah, I agree.
New map looks awesome. I think the problem with live events is spectator mode, and they sort of talked about this, is a little behind, and you have problems tracking some of the new stuff that's going on in spectator mode. But the map itself looked amazing, and I think you're right, Travis. That was one of the big things that you could easy to forget about after we've seen it for a while. But when you think back, it really shone there.
Mm-hmm. And you actually are like really right about the Worlds being on such an old patch. I've been doing some like analysis of like the old data, and Worlds was played on 4.14, and now we're on 4.20. Like, there's literally like so many patches of solo queue meta that we like totally missed or whatever. So we saw like Xerath and that kind of stuff, which
Right. So do you give any credence to we'll talk a little bit about the NA expansion coming up, any credence to the idea that now people are playing too quickly on 420? Having seen it, did it seem unfinished or unrefined, or teams seem really lost in the new map and the new meta?
Yeah, I think that like idea has kind of gone out the window. Like with IEM and OGN and LPL, I think playing all on 420. If this expansion tournament still was on the old patch, we would be like,
yeah. It was weird even watching the expansion coming up and still seeing the old map while you'd been playing on the new map everywhere. Travis, do you feel like teams seemed uncertain in the new meta, the new stuff?
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things for me, I asked a couple of different players about this, and I think it was Medios who I asked directly about, like, hey, how much of the changes do you think people have figured out? Like, how much knowledge and how much understanding of all this new stuff? And I think he said something like 40%. Like, he doesn't even think that even half of the stuff that has been introduced into the game and has been changed has been figured out and realized by the players. So,
Travis, actually, like, when I heard that question or whatever and that answer, I thought about it, and I looked into last year's data to see, like, okay, what was the big thing that happened last season, and how long did it take people to adapt? And so the big thing was vision, really, right?
The trinkets and stuff.
Like
with all the
pink wards and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I tracked how many pink wards were bought, like, week by patch, and it took about like 4 months for like them to hit the point that they kept for the rest of the year.
The new meta, yeah.
So like, I think Medios was right, and I think that was a good question. Like, I think like it'll take a few more months actually before we actually like kind of hit that whatever the season.
You need the LCS grind to start, where people are just like grinding out and competing every week.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, that would imply we're probably a long way from whatever the finished form of Season 5 really looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of what Riot has said as well, right? Is that they plan on many patches during, this is preseason, and preseason is crazy, and there's all this different stuff that's going to happen. So, and I think we're seeing that even with the patch notes that just came out yesterday, where I actually, because I was following the Twitch GG stuff yesterday, I just had a chance to look at them earlier today, and it's really crazy how much has changed and what they're doing. So I think we'll continue to see this for the next couple patches, and then I think it's hard for teams to realize like what you're like the full potential or what all the different things are, especially as like the ground keeps moving underneath them, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so NA wins IEM San Jose. More NA news. You know, Cloud9 may be reasserting itself, but the kind of roster situation getting a lot clearer. We saw in the last couple weeks both Dignitas and CLG firm up their rosters, along with TSM confirming the thing we all knew, and then seeing that lineup, and Curse kind of, they still have some instability, but sort of 4 or 5 looking a lot better. So CLG officially keeps Link on at mid and brings Xmithy back from wherever, out of retirement maybe, if a semi-unofficial retirement back. So what's your takeaway on the new CLG roster? How strong does this roster look?
I don't even know, man. After all these years, like, what is a CLG roster at the end of the day? You know, is it even really a roster?
I don't know.
I mean, is Xmithy going to be there next, like, by a summer split? It's so weird. I don't know. I mean, Xmithy. Okay, to be real, Xmithy is, I think, a pretty good jungler. However, when he was on XDG, I feel like this guy is a very quiet dude. And doesn't actively like throw information out there and begin discussions, which has always been, communication in my mind has always been a problem on CLG. I mean, lots of teams struggle with it, so it's kind of a cliche, but it went from in the past when you had Saint and Hotshot and Choster all yelling at each other and the communication was just like really negative, to this last split where there was just an extreme lack of communication. And when I look at Xmithy, I don't know if he's this guy that's going to come in and fix or help fix that.
Right.
I certainly think Zion. I think we had this discussion, this pretty much the same discussion when Zion came on, and I feel like Zion is a very positive and talkative and interesting person when it comes to like his new role on the team, and I think that'll be good. I just don't know if Xmithy is going to be there. I mean, and then at the end of the day, it also goes back to like who do you get? So, is like what were the other options out there, and are those guys like much more talkative? And if they are they like as good as Xmithy? So there's this weird balance, but yeah. And then a lot of people were upset about Link coming back. You know, I don't want to stuff that was told to me and potentially confidence. I don't want to say people yell at me about it, but I think that Link, from what I understand, Link was like a new player essentially whenever he started doing these scrims and that kind of thing. I think maybe fearing for his spot on the team. So supposedly it's going much better, and I'm sure they wouldn't have brought him back if they didn't feel that it was going to be different.
Yeah. So talent makeup, chemistry makeup, what do you think?
Well, I think there's a few interesting wrinkles here. I think that they didn't pick up a foreigner despite having, 2 foreigner spots, right? And having 2 foreigners last split. Like, I think that was like a very specific, conscious decision.
And against the grain.
And like for Dignitas or whatever, who we'll talk about later. And which is, I think, goes to Travis's communication issue, that they're trying to fix this communication issue, and foreign players don't really help with that. But then I also think, looking at this team, I don't think this team is any better than what their team was last split. I mean, I obviously said a lot that I think that Seraph was not a very good player or whatever, but I still don't think this team can do any better than that team will do, which is not the kind of opinion you want to have after a roster change.
And that was 6th place, which is not very good.
Why do you say that, Spelsy? Because I certainly feel like Zion will be a lot better for that team than Seraph ever was, and Xmithy at worst is just a flat trade from Dexter.
Yeah, so I think Xmithy is like a flat trade or a downgrade. I think Dexter was actually kind of underrated. I don't know, maybe he had like some
By
problems.
the end, I feel like by the end of the split, Dexter had really dropped off. Like when he came on to CLG, and like everybody was like, we talked a lot about how Dexter was maybe even competing with Meteos for this top jungler slot. But I feel like by the end of it, it was just kind of like he was just another whatever jungler.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably true.
They didn't fix any of their problems. Like CLG's issue has never been talent, like a sort of raw talent of the roster. It's been getting that talent to perform to its maximum potential. And I guess maybe the biggest difference for them, and it'll be hard to see exactly how that its indirect influence is having a in-house coach who can kind of lead the players both strategically and kind of emotionally and all of that stuff. So maybe Scar is the real difference maker. Yeah. If we think it's roughly even on talent, maybe a little bit better, the big jump will come from maximizing that talent, and that falls on the coach.
So I think the big jump is both Scar and Zion. Because again, I just think that Zion, like, Seraph was a land choker. Like, there's no way around it. He was a really nice guy and that kind of thing, but I'd hear all this stuff about how he was like just dominating or not dominating, but going really, really well against like Korean top laners whenever they were over in Korea and all this stuff. And he was just very emotional, and people knew that he would just have a really, really hard time. I mean, that was on the show that they did. And so I think Zion is just like worlds different. I don't know why, like, Spellsy, I have yet, because I'm actually kind of curious about this.
Yeah.
I have yet to hear a reason from you as to why you think like Zion is not like a great upgrade from Seraph on all aspects.
The reason why I don't think Zion's a great upgrade is because even though I think Seraph was kind of not very good or whatever, right? I think Zion in his split with Dignitas showed that he was not that good. I think like from a statistics point of view, like I looked at him a lot because he was really interesting on Coast.
Yeah.
And so I tracked his performance on Dignitas, and I think that he showed that he was not very good, actually. And like they didn't change, Dignitas didn't do any better with Shifter and Zion. I think a lot of that can be blamed actually on Shifter. I think Shifter is really, really overrated, but I think Zion actually brings a little bit of that too. And I think that Zion has like this really carry role as well, right? Which Seraph supposedly had, which was like limiting him. And I don't know if that will help them overcome.
I think the danger with Zion is that he's strategically not very flexible, and you either play a way that really suits him or you don't, and you're in. So he sort of forces his team into one particular style to try to maximize his talent. And if that works in the meta, then maybe that's good. And if it doesn't, then you could be in a lot of trouble. But who knows where the meta will be, especially as we get to the summer and stuff.
That's all you need. Just have him lock in Nasus.
Yeah, I mean, I think Zion is an upgrade over Seraph, but I don't think he's so big of an upgrade that suddenly CLG is a top 3 team again. That will change based on the team chemistry and communication. Mm-hmm. And like you, I think your point, Travis, was the best, that they still don't have a strong shot calling voice on the team. I guess that's Afro move. I mean, it's not Zion's not bringing that from top lane. That's never been his role. Link isn't doing that. Xmithy, that wasn't his role either. So it's really Rush Hour carrying that team in game on calls. And that's not any different than it was last year. So
if only coaches were able to be in the comms for the game as well.
I mean, it probably would help teams like CLG, which have sort of shot calling tilt issues in general, to help them like, hey, calm down, take a breath, take a breath, take a breath. So we'll see. It sounds like
I still want to say that it's like a lot of speculation at this point. I haven't seen Smithy hasn't really played on the competitive scene like in a visible way very long. So I mean, like, who knows? Maybe he aged well or whatever.
I mean, Lee Sin's still in the meta, so.
And there's still a lot to be like learned from playing together and seeing. So I mean,
I think they'll
will be the big test.
I was just gonna say, I think they'll be top 5, but not top 3.
Okay, so and they finished 6th in the summer split. So watch out.
Well, 6 out of 8.
6 out of 8. So
5
now
out of
they'll
10
be
now.
5 out of 10.
They're in the top half.
Yeah, that's true. They make the playoffs, I guess. Playoff team. They were a playoff team last year, and then they were also a relegation team at the same time. That's an impressive twofer. Okay, so Dignitas also locks up their roster after re-signing Crumbs and Shifter early on. They decided to keep Kiwi Kid for some reason, and then Gamsu and Core JJ came over from Korea. Where is this lineup now? They finished so much like they finished 5th, narrowly beating out CLG, or actually pretty definitively beating out CLG to lock in that 5th spot and avoid relegation. Is this top 3 roster now?
I mean, now they went in the complete opposite direction of CLG, where they just picked up foreigners to replace their like leaving players.
Right.
And so there will be a lot of like figuring out how to work with foreigners and that kind of stuff. Crumbs on League Central said that
League Center.
Oh,
Can't
League
believe
Center,
you did
sorry.
that on air. We'll edit that out. Do that whole thing
Wait,
again.
really? That was a joke.
Well, okay. You look so serious.
I know, that's why.
We're just rolling. The
Okay,
show's still
fine.
happening. They will have seen everything that just
League
happened.
Center.
No, I don't know what it is.
Saying Crubs on League Center. We're not editing this. This is going in. Everyone's seeing.
It's going in now. Travis called it.
All right, well, Crumbs on League Center
Yes.
said that, like, talked a lot about, had a lot of opinions on how to treat foreigners and how to, like, foster their environment and bring them to their full potential. And so we'll get to see if that pays out. I've always been kind of the opinion that, or historically, foreigners moving into both NA and EU have been unsuccessful. But we'll be able to see in this upcoming split.
I think it's nice contrast to strategies, right? Like both teams had a lot of roster instability. One kind of stuck closer to home, brought NA coach, NA players, you know, kind of focused on chemistry and communication. The other went what we can assume is sort of a talent grab and tried to find the best player at each position. Still ended up with Kiwi Kid. Interpret that how you will. So, Travis, who do you have more faith in at this point?
I mean, I'll just be completely honest. I have zero knowledge of anything about these Dignitas players, along with literally everyone else. So I don't. It's too early to make a decision. I am very, very skeptical for a lot of these teams, including like Cursed, by the way, who are bringing in players from other regions and saying like, "Oh yeah, this is going to be good." I think there are people. Again, it's like the Royal Club thing. Like everybody's like, "Royal Club did it." You don't even need to speak the same language.
You got
in order
smart
to play
pings,
this game.
just do it.
Yeah, and I am just very skeptical of that. I mean, Millennium. I don't know. It's just not. I don't see it happening. I will notice, by the way, just a side note. While we were discussing this, I just realized CLG, all U.S. team now, right?
All NA team.
All U.S. Is there a Canadian?
I don't know. Maybe.
No.
No.
It's like Cloud9, because Cloud9 is all USA.
USA. Okay. There you go, folks. Okay. So either did this shake up the top 3? LMQ fell out. So in a sense, there's been a top 3 spot open with TSM and Cloud9 probably securing another top 3 finish. Either of these teams looking really strong for that 3rd spot in a trip to Worlds?
I think if Curse gets a solid bin laner, and I think they might have the chance, even though there's been like issues with Piglet or whatever. I think they have the better chance. I don't see either. I think most of these roster changes, almost all of these roster changes, have come with like on paper they've looked weaker, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of in agreement. Like I don't look at any of the changes that occurred this year, and maybe like the TSM one, like well, then again, like this was Santorin's first tournament, and I don't feel like people are like, yeah, Santorin, but it's hard to be. A lot of the changes are interesting, and I think that I am excited to see how they pan out next year. However, I don't look at any of them and be like, that team, oh my God, the God team, they've got this, it's the super team, the lineup, like Smithy, he's back, you know, or like these 2 players that no one's ever heard of on Dignitas. Yeah, I mean, no one's ever heard of in the West, I know.
Right.
Over there. But I just don't see it.
That's the interesting contrast, I think, with EU, because we've been seeing some like solidifying rosters in EU, and I think both Alliance, SK, and Roccat all look better on paper.
On paper.
Compared to NA, where I think these teams are looking kind of weaker on paper. So
yeah.
It all comes down to like when they're actually playing, like with the new meta and the new teams and the new 10-team like LCS. Like there's so many different changes, so like who will know what actually pans out? But for speculation's sake, I think it's actually kind of interesting to see how NA and EU have been approaching these roster changes.
Okay. So moving on, this upcoming weekend, just staying with NA, is NA Expansion Tournament. Travis, you'll be there live in person Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. What are you looking forward to? What do you think we're going to see?
I'm looking forward to. It's kind of weird, right? Because Expansion Tournament is in a strange place. I mean, even on League Central, we had St. Vicious League Center, by the way. You guys are watching this. It's called League Center.
Cut it.
No, we're not cutting it. Anyway, even on League Center, St. Vicious said that he's participating and doesn't really care about it. Expansion tournaments are very strange because, and we talked about this among ourselves at IEM this weekend, that it's the strange thing where people, I think for the majority, aren't very interested in it because they're not really interested in the teams until those teams make it in. And so, I'm excited to see which one of these teams gets in, but none of them have that complexity factor of oh, this is a team that we want Prolly back or something like that. I mean, maybe people are saying that about Saint or Nian or something, but I don't see that same factor. So it'll be really interesting to see which teams make it in and how they look. But at this point, I also feel like most people generally don't. I don't think there's a unicorns of love situation with any of these teams yet, where it's this is the team that's going to make it in, and holy crap, they could blow everything out of the water. Maybe that'll be different. But so in terms of what we're going to see, we'll see 2 teams make it into the NALCS.
Let's slow down on predictions.
I will randomly pick Curse Academy and Fusion because I don't know. Although I do hear Coast is supposed to be stronger than both of them, so maybe this is a bad idea. But Coast, I feel like it's cursed, and so we'll see what's up.
The Curse Academy is also kind of cursed. They've been trying at it for how long now?
Right. Maybe better just say who you're rooting for then. I know I'm all teams have a certain appeal, but I think McNoon is maybe the most interesting player in the whole thing, and maybe what he could do in the LCS or I don't know.
It'd be fun to see him back.
So I'm sort of rooting for Fusion. That lineup has a lot of likable people on it. So I will sort of be rooting for them a little. But it does seem wide open. None of these teams look great. None of them appear like they're going to run away with this tournament and just coast to victory.
Yeah.
So it should be really interesting results. Anything's possible.
Yeah, I think Travis was right, and like you said, that there's going to be no Cloud9 scenario where this person's going to stomp through, and then when I think Coast and Fusion are going to make it. Apparently Jesus has been playing on a new level, which is kind of crazy compared to his world performance. But
yeah.
I think it'll be fun to watch to see how they play on the 420 with this really serious atmosphere compared to IEM San Jose, where I talked to a bunch of teams and they were saying that they were preparing kind of hard for this event, but there wasn't as much on the line. I think it'll be interesting to see if we'll see these still crazy picks or whatever. Will we see Poppy out of McNoon again?
Right.
I don't know. I'm actually looking forward to this expansion.
And it's a little advanced, but do you see any way that one of these 2 teams, or one of the teams that makes it through this, has a serious impact on the LCS next year, or are we just figuring out who the 9th and 10th place teams are going into the spring split?
I think this goes to should the LCS expand it or not. I think that these 2 teams will not bring that much, but I think that out of the bottom 3 or 4 teams, on paper, I think one of them could make a rise to the top or whatever. I think there is room to go up there, especially in North America, and I think one of these teams can make it.
Depending on who LMQ picks up, they could just be a 9th or 10th team. So maybe we're looking at the team that's ahead of LMQ or something.
Yeah, exactly.
The middle looks really soft in NA for sure. We'll see.
And the bottom too.
Yeah. Well, is there a difference even? It's all kind of
Cloud9 TSM. Yeah, that's those are our guys.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for this week. Expansion tournament. Check out Travis's coverage there. There was a big story yesterday. I think a pivotal moment in esports is what we branded that video, and it is Twitch acquired Good Game Agency, one of the main talent agents for representing teams, and that's owned by Alex Garfield, who previously owned or still does own or whatever EG and Alliance, and there's been a lot of talk about that. Travis, Slasher, and I did a short 1-hour discussion on that you can find on our YouTube channel. Travis?
It's a very big fucking deal. People need to know about this. It drives me crazy that people just don't care. This will shape, I think, esports in very interesting ways over the next couple of years. So people should go watch that hour-long video. I literally resurrected Slasher from the dead like a necromancer in order to do that video. So people need to see this.
Yeah, it cost Travis, I think, 5 or 10 years off the end of his life
Yeah, my
to get Travis on there. But to get Slasher on there, definitely worth it. So check that out on the YouTube channel, on the site, and we'll see you next week.